Here's some updates on what's going in the world of automation. Engineers are focusing on a long-haul freight software that could replace 90% of trucking. Study is suggesting that self-driving trucks itself could replace 500,000 U.S. jobs. And I want to be sure this is going to target truckers. And this is according to Bloomberg via automotive news. Autonomous driving engineers are focusing their efforts on perfecting long-haul freight. Most interstate trucks lack anything more than complex that slow curves or easy pass lanes. This means that those routes pose less of a challenge for engineers. Self-driving trucks can easily navigate interstates, but short trips outside of that route presents challenges. So they couldn't get it on the streets with individual cars, the next target. And again, like in general, I think most people feel self-driving cars is a decent idea moving us towards the future. But there is the consideration of the truckers, and it seems like they may have a good shot. Engineers and companies may have a good shot at taking over that industry first.
I know there's science behind this. I get it. I'm going to get tweets about it. This freaks me out for safety reasons, obviously for worker reasons too, but for safety reasons. It's a very dangerous job. And, there's been a lot of pressure put on truckers. Because of this whole trucker situation, I went down the rabbit hole of reading about truckers. And I have an uncle who's a long haul trucker, and he has to go through multiple exams regularly to make sure he's keeping his license up to date. There is he does this because he in his mind, he thinks he makes a lot of money because he puts in double hours, and he had his ex-wife used to go out on the road with him. So when he would sleep, she would drive. I mean, they didn't really have a life. It's lonely. It's hard. The more the roads are in disarray in this country, it makes it more difficult. There have been more accidents since the pandemic, last couple of years. So I don't know how that affects truckers, but I know, we're all on the road together. If this is something that increases safety, okay, but I don't know. I'm just not there yet. It's just, I know that planes drive themselves, but they're not brushing up against car. I'm already scared when I drive down the road against two, no. Can't honk. What are they going to do? They can't move. They're not going to move if you honk.
I feel you. I think that the technology would definitely be safer. There's going to have to be a lot of beta testing here, right? They're going to have to make sure that these trucks are not running people off the roads. One of the number one things I noticed when I moved back to Atlanta was that the abundance of 18-wheelers everywhere. I had to just get used to. See, in Boston, you just had to get used to what we called mass holes, just drivers who were just, jerks on the road. They were everywhere. Come down to Atlanta, you replace those, everybody's happy and, honking their horns and hey, neighbor, but you're inundated with 18-wheelers everywhere. So I agree with you. I have no idea how this is going to work in terms of safety, even though I think what we're currently doing is unsafe, especially because when an accident happens, there's no accountability for the companies and there's all the accountability for the drivers. I'm thinking of that poor driver who was put into a bad truck. The brakes went out and unfortunately, the truck killed several people and they tried to give him 200 years. So I think we have to address what's happening right now, as well as the potential for this technology.
Absolutely. I mean, that case out of Colorado was horrifying. And I'm sure there's many more like this that we're just not even aware of. The other side of this is this is a product of our consumption habits. We don't want truck drivers to lose their jobs. And of course, we're seeing their frustration or a portion of the trucking industry's frustration acted out in these vax mandates and, their protests. But this is also just a reflection of our extraordinary consumption. I don't know how we have a larger conversation after inflation, after seeing supply chain issues after talking about free trade and seeing our reliance on our partners and, not so nice friends that are our partners who can play with the economy to punish us. this is all about our consumption. We are a consumer economy. We rely on goods from China, who have pieces from other parts of the world, and then they're shipped on Greek ships, and then they, enter through multiple ports. I mean, it's the economic warfare is warfare. We are actually at war right now, whether or not we're conscious of it or not. We're at war.
That's right. That's right. And to be honest with you, I often wonder how much of the payload that our truckers, because you know what I've been on, I've been to, there's pretty much not a truck stop on the I-10 corridor that I haven't been to. And I go into the gas stations with the rest of the truckers. Like, I'm not a trucker, but I drive, and I've driven some pretty big trucks across the country, but not an 18-wheeler. But anyway, I digress. The point is, it is lonely. It is, you're lucky if you get a really clean gas station. Right. And those places that have the cleanest gas stations, sometimes, you got to go to church if you want to go to use their showers. Right. They have these weird stipulations in these backwoods cities. So I really do think that the emphasis has to be on the drivers here, because they are the backbone. But I wonder, Nomiki, how much of their payload is nothing but junk? How much of their loneliness is a result of them shipping plastic widgets that are coming from China or coming from wherever, and ultimately just going to fill our landfills in about 6 months?
I don't know if there's ever been an assessment of I don't know how many trucks are on the road every day. I don't know which companies. I mean, I'm sure there's many trucks that are working with many companies, but it would be interesting. It'd be a great study to see, with the largest, whether it's Walmart or Target, you list the biggest companies that sell the most goods in this country. Amazon, of course, Amazon. And it'd be interesting to see a breakdown of what they're selling and what they're, what's being imported the most. They know, they have the data.